topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." Kevin Hallinan believes that certainly applies to business. Welcome to Winning Business Radio, here at W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. And now, your host, Kevin Hallinan.
Thanks, everybody, for joining in again today. I am Kevin Hallinan, and welcome back to Winning Business TV and Radio on W4CY.com. We are streaming live on Talk4 TV in addition to Facebook, and that's at Winning Business Radio. And, of course, we're available after the live show in podcast form on tons of platforms, wherever you get your podcast content: YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, the list goes on. The mission of this show, Winning Business Radio and TV now for the last year or so, as regular viewers and listeners know, is to offer insights and advice to help people avoid the mistakes of others, right? To learn best practices. Those are the how-tos, the what-tos, the what-not-tos, and hopefully and seriously to be challenged and inspired by the successes and challenges of others. Who are those others? Consultants, coaches, advisors, authors, founders and owners, entrepreneurs, people with expertise. But, as I say every week, virtually every successful person I've ever had a chance to talk to has had some form of failure in their lives and careers. So while we all have to get our knees scraped once in a while, I'm driven to keep those scrapes from needing major surgery. Let's endeavor to learn from history so we don't repeat it. I've spent the better part of my career equipping businesses to grow, from solopreneurs to small and medium-sized companies, all the way up to the Fortune 50. And I've seen some of those companies win, and to varying degrees, I've seen some of them fail. I've had the opportunity to rub elbows with some of the highest performing people around, and with some who probably should have found other professions. In my own businesses, I've had lots of success and some failures too. I like to think I've learned a lot from those experiences. So yeah, you're going to hear from me, but you're really going to hear from experts, and today's guest is no different. He is Richard Blank, CEO of Costa Rica's call center. Here's his bio. Richard Blank's journey in the call center space is filled with twists. I can read. I'll try this again. Filled with twists and turns. When he was 27 years old, he relocated to Costa Rica to train over 500 employees for one of the larger call centers in San Jose. With a mix of motivational public speaking style backed by tactful and appropriate rhetoric, Richard shared his knowledge and trained over 10,000 bilingual telemarketers. In anticipation of CAFTA, he became a strategic partner of the Pacific Rim Chamber of Commerce, Beverly Hills, California, and Solo Telecommunications, Colorado Springs, Colorado, to expand Costa Rica's international telecommunications and business appeal. He successfully prepared and managed some of the finest telemarketers in the country for the past, well, you do the math, many years. He's been the CEO for Costa Rica's call center since 2008. In addition, Richard has earned the reputation of running a school for telemarketing and is often sought after for private training sessions and consultations. He holds a bachelor's degree in communications and Spanish from the University of Arizona and certificate of language proficiency, apparently I don't have that, from the University of Sevilla, Spain. A keynote speaker for Philadelphia's Abington High School 68th National Honor Society induction ceremony. Giving back to Abington Senior High School is very important to him. As such, he endows a scholarship each year for students that plan on majoring in a world language at the university level. He has the largest, this is cool, collection of restored American pinball machines and antique Rockola jukeboxes in Central America, making gamification a strong part of his CCC culture. He grew up in Abington, that's in Northeast Philadelphia, and now lives in Costa Rica with his wife, Grace. Richard, welcome to Winning Business TV and Radio.
So happy to be with you and your audience today, Kevin.
Love it. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. So let me ask you a little bit of background. Tell us about Grace first. She's probably more important.
When I was growing up, and I stayed home from school, I used to watch Gilligan's Island. You always want to marry someone
I
exotic.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, so I got it a 1 in a million
Yeah.
shot. I married a tropical girl down here, and I met her right when I got to Costa Rica. So we
Wow.
pretty much got through our late 20s, 30s, 40s, and now my 50s together. And
Wow.
what a nice mixture of two amazing cultures.
That's awesome. You grew up in Northeast Philadelphia. Tell us about growing up in Abington.
Yeah, I loved growing up there.
Yeah.
The Four Seasons were nice. The fall's the best.
Mm.
But my high school was interesting. I really admired my peers. They were confident people. Two people in my class went to the NFL, Eddie George and Sean Wooden.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when we produced some serious players. But the people that we had, we were united and we pushed each other to get better. And so when you grow up there, maybe it's the sort of backbone or what's in the water, but I kind of like the people that were around me pushed me to be my best. It's one of the reasons today I do have that second language scholarship, A, because they helped me get into college, but B, because there is a young kid out there learning a second language, wants to study it in college. And maybe if I can pay for their books freshman year, I can make that circle complete and
That's cool.
do something on my end. So, yeah, why not? You can't forget all the people that assisted you along the way. It's very humbling.
Love it. What were your early interests?
No, besides languages, I was very much into athletics. Growing up in the Northeast, I was a huge hockey fan, a goalie actually.
Oh,
Loved
cool.
my Flyers.
Yeah.
And then when snow would come down, I could go skiing or sledding and things like that, more winter wonderland. And, besides athletics, you're talking about the Northeast. So there's a lot of, you're going out in the woods. And there's just beautiful places to visit around that area. And you can go to the shore in the summertime and enjoy yourself. And so there's just a lot of that. And remember, I'm growing up in the 70s and 80s. So I didn't have the cell phone. Apple IIe computers really didn't count. So for me, my man, I was always looking for the retro arcade areas.
Cool.
So I can play Asteroids and Pac-Man. And, those are the kind of places I used to hang out in early teen years.
So this past February, we were with friends. Well, I was at a conference, speaking at a conference in Vegas, and some friends took us out. There's a pinball Hall of Fame in Vegas. I don't know if you know of it. Sounds like you know of it. You haven't been there.
Absolutely. Haven't been there yet.
Cool.
No.
Pretty cool. When did you know you had an affinity for languages?
When you start doing dedicated practice, something above and beyond what school, work, or your friends or family expect from you, it's special, it's internal. And so I got this at a very young age. I was fortunate to have a family that liked to travel. So we go to Mexico. And besides enjoying myself, I'd come back with at least 20 to 30 vocabulary words. Besides having something like that as a memory of a vacation, when I would meet a Latino around the Northeast Philly area, I would use this limited grammar and vocabulary and get such a reinforcement and additional goodies along the way, more grammar and more vocab. And so it was something that I couldn't get from my family, and they didn't understand it. And they weren't really against it, but really didn't encourage it either. They prefer I studied finance or law. But this was something for me where it was so enjoyable that instead of forcing myself to study, it came naturally and I didn't forget it. And if I were the only one out of my friends that could do it, I might be marketable or unique, translate for a doctor, an attorney, or get out of a burning building with instructions. But I tell you what, my man, when it came down to choosing the degree in college, a lot of my friends went Ivy League and they studied medicine and law and architecture and other things. And I made my case. I told my family that our great grandparents came from Eastern Europe to New York City, at the turn of the 20s. They didn't even know English. And look what we did. We built something. So it's in our blood. And if they didn't come, you wouldn't even be here. So I go, and I'm also being responsible. Instead of spending a fortune, I chose to go to the University of Arizona. And I got in-state tuition. That's a fraction of the cost. Wow. And so, looking at it at that age, it was affordable. And it was something that I loved. And I know that it would be, it's one of those things. It's like a gift that keeps on giving. And that, that it's like the movie Quest for Fire. I will have this piece of charcoal that I can bring with me wherever I want to go that will give me light, warmth, and experience. And so it wasn't a one and a done, or as
Mm,
you're mentioning, going to conferences and meeting people. That's a beautiful thing, but
yeah.
that's very rare. I wanted an everyday stimulation to keep me on my toes and to keep me sharp and to be more in the moment compared to my mind
Yeah.
wandering with boring conversation. Someone can talk to me in Spanish about anything, and it's interesting because I'm learning something. In
That's
English,
cool.
it's like the worst. But for me, I'll probably ask additional questions. So it makes me a much better communicator. And I got that at a very, very young age.
Yeah. The reason I ask is, to me, it is unusual to have that kind of passion for something, particularly a language, at a young age. When did you uh, get the opportunity? How did you get the opportunity? And when did you go to Spain, University of Sevilla, to study Spanish and get that language proficiency?
In order to be a Spanish major at the University of Arizona, you have to spend some time abroad. I'm like,
Mm,
really?
that's cool.
Force me.
Yeah.
But then I doubled down. I'm not going for a semester and coming home. I want the full year. And I want Christmas break over that time to not come home, to take a backpack, a Eurail pass, call
Yeah.
my family once a week on a payphone and travel. Go to Amsterdam, go to Corfu, Greece.
That's cool.
This and this is before the cell phone. So you had to
Mm,
hustle to hook up. You had to go around and meet people. You had to read the signs and show up at the bar. It was so bohemic. It was incredible. And the people that I would meet, and it was not saying it was clean in regards to hygiene. I'm talking about youth hostels, but it still had a sense of innocence to it
hmm
still. And the people there shared books. And if they saw someone, they would join, but he doesn't speak any of the languages we speak. Complete place at the table. And I learned that what I grew up with in the United States sometimes was not applicable or had any sort of merit somewhere else. And I needed to shed that skin to not only be included, but to learn. And so it's a beautiful thing to accept people at a table and break bread with someone. And people loved sharing, and people would invite each other to go to museums or on adventures. And so you would spend probably the greatest memorable day or two with people you'll never see again.
mm,
But back in the 90s, you had to write them letters still, which is cool. Old school style,
yeah.
effort
I love it.
to keep these friendships. And so that built such character at that age at 21. So besides the language, imagine what happens to a person when they're evolving into a different, more mature individual at that
Mm,
stage.
that sounds great. All right. What were some of your early jobs? So I noticed you worked for Telemundo, NBC Universal. I was right there. I was in Universal City last weekend. Uh,
Well, no, this was actually in Arizona as an intern at Tucson
okay.
at
Yep.
that little station there under Jay Cohen. What a nice guy, letting me work there for free for 20 hours a week. But I tell you what, my man, I had to play the
Back
deal.
when they didn't have to pay you, right, as an intern.
Well, I'm in college. It's
Yeah.
not a full-time job. And what
Yep.
really could he pay me? And I had to study, but
Yeah.
I made a deal. I go, I'm not going to stay here if I'm doing filing paper and getting coffee. I'll get you coffee. But I mean, I'd rather do, let's say, promotions and public relations. Let me be that guy. And they said, okay. And I had the Telemundo shirt, and I'd go around to all these events in Tucson. And it was an incredible experience. And check this out. You might remember these names. Pedro Sevsek, that
Yeah.
had the talk show in the 90s against Christina from Univision. And then there was a newscaster out of Los Angeles named Miguel Quintana.
That
And
name I
this
know.
These gentlemen would come to Tucson all the time, and what a hero's welcome they got from the people. So I saw real rock stars, real players,
Mm,
and everyone loved them, and they treated everyone like family. And these were gentlemen that took their time to not only spend with me while I'm with them, shadowing them on their events, but to give me advice. They say, hey, Ricardo, why don't you try this or think about something like this? And I couldn't thank them more. These were my heroes. And so what this did was, besides Telemundo, it prepares you, it gives you momentum for what you're looking to do.
yeah.
But let me tell you some other cool jobs that I have. Besides that, post-grad, I worked for the importers of Corona beer. I did that
Oh,
for a
yeah.
year.
Oh, yeah.
We also had other products. It was Pacifico, it was Tsingtao, Peroni, Double Diamond, St. Pauli Girl non-alcoholic, and Modelo Negro in Especial. And so I used to do promotions there. And yeah, man, it was fun. And in college, I sold ski trips to Reno and spring break trips to Mazatlan, so me and my buddies can go for free.
That's cool.
So
That's
I was
cool.
getting all this fun work experience. We weren't making a lot of money, but I was having a great time. And so it's just building character and getting me prepared to
That's
challenge
right.
life.
Setting the groundwork. Hey, we're going to take our first commercial break right here. So we'll be back. Everybody, we'll be back in about 1 minute with Richard Blank.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Have you ever dreamt of being on the radio? Well, now is your chance. Be a radio show guest on the #1 ranked internet radio station and promote you and your business for free. Yes, you heard it, free. Business advertising right here on W4CY.com. Call 561-506-4031 now to get booked on one of our shows. That's 561-506-4031. Get your free advertising now.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We're back with Richard Blank. He is CEO of Costa Rica's call center. How did you transition from those promotion jobs, from Univision to the post school promotion jobs? How did you make it to Costa Rica? What were the jobs that kind of led you down that path, or the changes, et cetera?
Well, both the jobs that I mentioned were amazing, but I didn't see a long-term future or earnings potential. But it was great for experience. And 27 is a very interesting age. And I was in between jobs at the moment. It was the summer of 2000. And so my cousin Joe came to my house in Scottsdale, and I'm sending out resumes via a fax machine trying to get hired somewhere in Tempe to sell water filters or something.
That's funny.
And he says, listen, a very good friend of ours from college has a call center in Costa Rica. Richie, why don't you come down for 2 months? Teach some English, get a timeout. So I came down, walked off the plane, the most beautiful place in Central America. But when I walked into this call center environment, it's not like the Boiler Room or Glengarry Glen Ross offices. This was different. These were just rows and rows, hundreds of agents in their mid-20s. It was like college. And they're bilingual, and they're closing deals, and they're on old Cisco phones. And it's back in 2000. It was incredible what I saw. Mind you this, when you walk into a certain environment, you can size it up. And what I saw, minus the technical side, it almost seemed like a soft, or like a wiffle ball to me with a big red bat. I'm going to be cranking homers off of this.
Yeah.
They immediately said, wait a second, I can do this. Like a dancer that can just jump in the flow. I just needed to get a little bit of a structure. And so besides teaching English, I asked if I could just dabble on the phone. And next thing you know, I was crushing it. And then after those 60 days, I asked if I could stay. My friend said, yes. And I knew that my life was going to be different. Not only that, I fell in love with my current wife, Grace.
Yeah.
But I had to make that argument to my family back home that expected me to come back and work in the family real estate business.
Wow.
And I said, listen, just give me a
that was
couple
big
months and I'll
news.
come home. A couple months. No way I was staying. But I tell you what, my man, I learned the business from the inside out, not at sea level. And we're talking about something that didn't have repetition. I was learning departments. Retention, onboarding, sales, training, human resources, SEO, affiliate management. It's incredible. And you got to see the KPIs, the quality control departments. So they're studying tens of thousands of calls a month. So for me as a communication minor and someone that's astute towards patterns, I was looking at certain things that could be adjusted easily in between the soft skills that you and I, it's almost like if you're in front of your grandparents, that's the sort of soft skills you should have. Yeah. And so I'm just watching areas where I just need a little polishing or more diplomacy and vocabulary. And then I said, listen, if I get a chance to run my own team and run my own plays, I think I could have a little more grace to it and be a little more clever and have them be a little more attentive and use it. And so given the chance, I believe that when I do this sort of training with people, they like it because English is their second language. I make great arguments. I just don't tell them what to do. And I'll give you the most simple example. I don't like when people use help on the phone. I know it's used, but in my opinion, it's conflict management. You shouldn't be using that word to begin with. Use words like assist, guide, or even lend a hand. Don't say, excuse me, say, for my clarification. You can fall on certain swords and sacrifice pawns. It's really, it's an advanced adjustment of tone in short segments. So you prolong conversations. And it's a skill, but we're in a controlled environment for 160 hours a month. So it's very easy for us to balance this and to work with it. And so for me, I saw the luxury of trade because most people today are texting, chatting, or doing emails.
Awful. Yep.
You and I press zero.
They're necessary, but it's not the ideal.
It's okay for gathering. Let him bring it down to the 10-yard line, and I'll take AI as long as it gets the information right. If they're asking me the same question 6 times, it's annoying. But then the final 10 yards touchdown is the communication. Why? Empathy. Come on. Most people, when they're calling customer support, are frustrated. And if a computer tells me that they know how I feel, no, they don't. You've never owned a dog. How do you know how I feel? It ran away. But when you speak with somebody, that's a retention. You might get an upsell, you might get the referral, but it's not only that, it's the long-term relationship you have with that individual.
So when did you decide that you knew enough to go on your own?
You never know enough.
Well, you made that, you're right, but you made that decision at some point, right?
Very simple. It was time.
Right.
I was 35 years old. And well, why don't I do it at 25? Why wasn't I a hotshot 19-year-old?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you and your audience. It was two things. The first was impulse control. I don't want to say F you all the time. You got to slow down with that. So it took me to my mid-30s. And the second thing, and I will say this, it's maturity. You're talking about large payrolls and responsibilities of contracts and not just saying, I'm going to try. You're not going to try. You're going to run through first. You're going to figure it out. If you're going to be the main player and people are investing a lot of time and money in you, they're hoping that you're Hannibal Smith of the A-team and have a plan.
Great.
And if you don't have a plan, figure it out a second way, because that's how you win these things. And so you got to think about the weight that you're putting on your shoulders and what you need to remove in order to have this sort of responsibility. I can't have naysayers and gray believers. I can't take advice of people that have never moved abroad, started a call center, or speak Spanish. And that's the majority of the people that I know. So how are people going to say, go, Richard, go? I mean, what are they going to say? And so you have to realize, and this is an ethical thing, that you are doing things with good faith and good intentions. I would love to give a service level agreement. I would love to say 100 leads a day that convert. Who knows what happens in this crazy world? But I'm willing to be accountable and to show you what I got. And I can back it up with numbers if that's what you want to see. But sometimes numbers can be misinterpreted if you give me a bad list or the people on your end aren't following up. And so let's all calm down for a second. So as long as, and I've learned this in doing very good business, Kevin, that if you can speak with somebody with no surprises, you're showing very strong character during chaos. And if you and I can get through with a foundation through bad times, it's golden during the good times. And so people will judge you when these things happen. Are you cowardice? Are you hiding? Are you misstepping? Or are you flat out telling them, this is what's happening, but I got a solution. I got Billy quit today, but I got Joey starting tomorrow. So don't worry about it. And that's all. And you have preventative measures in place. But in my industry, there's a very large attrition rate. Amazon is located here with HP, Intel, Oracle, and plus the other players. But in regards to a winning business strategy, I can accept an attrition because it's natural. There's a better schedule because of university. It's closer to their home. Their girlfriend works there. Or if you have skills, you might earn more money. But I tell you what, and all you bosses out there, you have to pay attention to this. I have never given the walk of shame. I'm not going to curse you out in front of people or go there to remove your dignity. You don't do things like that. And so as long as you have that sort of relationship with people, you yourself as a boss with leverage will be able to live with yourself. Because if you need that sort of ego to tell someone that works with you, or in your case, for you, it works for you, and you yell at them, that's not cool. Then you'll have no friends at your Chuck E. Cheese party, and then you wonder why you're going out of business.
Chuck E. Cheese, another great reference.
Yeah.
How did you start? So I'm assuming you didn't take over the company you were at. I'm assuming you started your own. Tell me which one.
You love this. I was working out of my house. I put up a website.
Yeah.
And October 4th of 2007, I landed my first account. February 6th of 2008. One seat for 1 week.
Yeah.
But what do you do, Richard? Where do you go? You know, Kevin, that's a great question. This is what I did do. There's internet cafes, or if you want something a little better, it's like a blended center where you don't have privacy, but you have the server room, the equipment, and all that stuff. So I was renting a turnkey station on a monthly basis. So I guaranteed the support in IT. It wasn't luxurious,
right?
But I could pay the taxes, the salary, and make my margin. I could scale accordingly, reduce if I had to. And I did that for 2 years. Why? I needed to have the book of business and I needed some capital. So after 2 years, then I rented space. And since call centers do go out of business, I was able to buy used furniture and equipment for a fraction of the cost, rows at a time. So I didn't have to overextend myself.
Yeah.
Never overextension with loans or partners. Did that for 6 years. Then when we got to the level of a lot of capital and really stable clients, we purchased a building, renovated it, third floored it. It can hold 300. But I don't need 300 because of working from home and virtual agents. I don't need to look for additional space. I am the perfect sweet spot of onboarding people here if they need it, back and forth if they want, or none at all. And so that's 17 years of business, my friend.
So tell people, I'm sorry.
17.
Sorry about that. You're in a space called BPO. Tell people what that means and how even Costa Rica became one of the hubs of that.
That's an amazing question. BPO, business process outsourcing. When companies give certain responsibilities to a center, it could be either sales, appointment setting, lead generation, customer support, back office support, non-voice support, even IT support. And so if you're doing it virtually, that could be, you're hiring an independent, but if you are giving it to a company that is outside of, let's say, your country even. See, we're near shore to the United States. Offshore would be India, the Philippines, and the East.
Right.
And I compete with them in regards to price. And I don't blame people. I have my arguments for and against that. But if somebody is doing something where the skill set is very easy, it's a level 1, how do I compete with that? I can't do double the amount of work. You should go to the Philippines. And I say that as a consultant. But if you're looking at a retention campaign or even a prospecting lead gen campaign, maybe our Spanish second language, for the United States, which is a huge market, the proxemics to the United States, our infrastructure, our democracy, and, the skill sets that we have here, you might be able to get 1.5 or 2 on merit. And so that will offset that cost by getting a more caliber agent. And people like things like that. And so I make my case that way. And then you have to say, and also you got me. You have to say that.
Costa Rica to many.
Uncle Buck.
That's right, Uncle Buck.
He's a movie.
Costa Rica will sound like, it's just another South American country, but it's unique in Central and South America. Tell us how it's unique.
Of course it is. It's the only democracy in Central America. And as I mentioned, Amazon, HB, Intel, Oracle are here. It's because of how close we are and the skill set. And what I've seen here is that it's very safe. And that the people that we have here, a lot of them go to private school or have even lived in the United States. So they claim that they have the most neutral in regards to English accents in Central America.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And we have a ton of expats that live here. So besides speaking English well, these people are attuned to our culture. They know who Brett Favre is, cheese fries, and the shore.
The shore. Yeah.
Listen, if you're looking to close a deal with somebody and you learn something like that, that's pretty cool.
Situation.
correctamundo. And so these are the sort of things that will give somebody a better chance of anchoring on a phone call and buying another 30 seconds than some guy out there that's got absolutely no idea if it's Margate or Ventnor or Atlantic City. And so those are the sort of things
That's
that we
great
do.
too. I was in Atlantic City at a conference earlier in the year, and we were walking by all those streets.
I hope you got a good steak down there.
We did.
Did you go to
did.
Dino's?
We were at, where were we? I think it was Harris. I forget. I think it was Harris.
That's
I forget.
cool.
I forget which hotel it was. All right, we're going to take our last break here. We will be back in about another 60 seconds with Richard Blank.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
The YP.com website is your local search engine. If you're looking for a good restaurant, it can help you find the right one nearby with ratings and reviews. Or if your car breaks down, you can use the YP app to find the closest repair shop. Or maybe you're just looking for something to do on a Friday night. Well, it has great local coupons for all sorts of things in your area. No matter what, when, or where, if you're looking for something, YP Local Search can help you find it. So go to YP.com or download the app to search local, find local, and save local.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
Back with Richard Blank, CEO of Costa Rica's call center. Richard, tell us a bit more about the company, and then we'll get into specifics of the work. And I was fascinated by the way you talk to people and teach people to talk to people. I want to get into that as well. But start with, how big is the team? I know it can scale and as needed, but in general, how big is your team?
150 strong.
Okay. And you cover geographies, mostly U.S. or your clients now?
Majority is U.S. and Canada. I've done a little local and some Europe.
Yep.
But I tell you what, my parents told me I'm more proud of you of business you turn away than that you take.
Yeah, I love that too.
I have to ensure that I can fulfill their needs. If they're asking something outside my skill set, I have to do this.
So who does need your services? You mentioned the types of things. I have a list here that I took off your bio and website. Customer service, telesales, lead gen, et cetera. What types of companies typically need your services?
Well, if you want to compare apples to your office, you can get someone at a fraction of a cost. And, a lot of people see telemarketing in a bad light. They look down upon it. It's a transitional job on me. I made a living off of it.
Right.
And why does everyone love those movies so much if it's so bad? But I tell you what, to me, if somebody needs specific lead generation for, let's just say, real estate or insurance companies, people that have certain stores that want to reach out with a list of their current clients as just a courtesy call to get them in or to talk about it. Once again, back office support or even answering service, if you just want to make sure someone picks up the phone, and you might pay per minute or pay per call. I tell you what, when I do mystery shopping calls to certain companies, it's amazing how people answer their phone, and usually will say the name of the company better than they do. So when we're making these calls as well, pay attention to positive escalations. You're wondering why you're not getting enough appointments. Let Kevin know that Judy's amazing when she transfers me to you. And give that in writing as well when you're doing a follow-up email. So when I'm calling you back for the appointment on Thursday, I get a hero's welcome from Judy. And so I don't want to angle it in there. I don't have $1 million advice for people. I'm not going to compromise your ethics, values, or morals. And if you want to cold call, close, and watch Blake from Glengarry. But if you want to build a solid pipeline or retain a client, or at least in the worst case scenario on an exit interview, get the sort of things we did to fumble the football, then we might be able to save the bleeding and possibly earn that business back or make that money back. And so companies might be in a rut, or they might not understand the art of speech or how to write a script or how to marinate a list and really how to do a good workflow. or they're just overwhelmed and they really want somebody to assist them to tee it up for them, and they go in and close. You listen, a lot of companies, my friend, it's about letting go. I'm not telling you to give the keys to the company, but if you're overwhelming yourself with making phone calls, it's like someone that owns a restaurant. You can't do everything. And so you don't also want to hire the cheapest person because it could ruin your clientele base and they might not want to come back. And so that's why I always ask for the profile, just specifically what you're looking for and the expectations. And when I read scripts, it's very interesting how they kind of write it. They think like I'm calling and the person answering is credit card at the ready. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's an 8th grade dance. It's going to be a little difficult. You got to have some nerve, but it's the sort of thing that if you give a solid list and you do custom make emails and voicemails and you really work it, do not be surprised that this old school form of interpersonal communication once again will have its renaissance, because people are very sick of this omni-channel nonverbal communication.
Right.
And so that's what you need from me, my good friend, at least starting with 1 seat to see what we can do for your VIP clients.
Very good. And you do some web design and programming. Is that the part of the outreach of some form, or how does that work?
We offer those additional services, but naturally those are specialists. I don't have just 5 guys waiting around for that. So in essence, I'm almost outsourcing that.
Sure. Don't tell
that I know locally here. But what's the thing that I feel most comfortable with? Campaigns that I understand. And so it has to be my wheelhouse. That's why I'll never take, let's say, a Chinese account, because I can't speak Chinese and I don't need Billy doing something on the phone that's, not ethical. And so as long as I can understand the language and I can understand the sort of campaign that comes in, we'll take it. But I'll tell you 5 I don't do. I do not do sports books, casinos, stocks, pharmacies, or sweepstakes. And I'll tell you why. It's a very strict Catholic country. And just the way that I was raised, I just want to ensure that the employees that work with me can go home and tell their mothers what they do for a living. And there's 1,000 ways to earn $1. I just, for some crazy reason, I'm extremely selective. And I'm also not someone's fall guy. This isn't the Maltese Falcon. You're not going to blame me for some shady gray area phone calls. I'm not going to do that for you. Did you scrub your list against DNC? No, man, you're in Costa Rica. That's why I'm in Costa Rica. Because we don't do things like that here either. And so also, I tell you what, I have a Costa Rican corporation here that does all the labor laws, but the contract that I have is in the United States. So you are working with a company inscribed out of Florida with follows U.S. business and banking laws. I like following the laws and doing things the right way, so you don't have
longevity
and find a call center because they're not doing the correct things.
All right. Here's a list of very interesting, at least what I think are very interesting skills that you employ and I think teach. Tell us about that as well. And I'll just go down the list here. Advanced telemarketing strategies. What do you mean by advanced? It's not just pound the phone and give a script.
That's what most people do. Advanced telemarketing strategies is listening more than speaking, copious note taking. I mentioned positive escalation, company name spike, transitional sentences, tie downs, certain sort of rebuttals. Hey, how about this? Military alphabet, huh? So emails don't bounce back. Do you know how to write a letter, a business letter, when you send it to them as the follow-up? Do you know how to leave a proper voicemail? And so yes, and due diligence. So if you're looking at LinkedIn profiles, do you know which nuggets to put out to help you anchor when you're trying to build rapport? Yes, my friend, studying phonetics and semantics.
Yeah, tell us about semantics, rhetoric, and some of those microexpression reading, which I'll tell everybody, it's not easy to do in person. It's even more difficult over the phone. Tell us about that.
It's actually clear. It's almost like when Luke Skywalker put on that blast shield in Star Wars and could still hit that ball with his lightsaber. Nice Star Wars reference. I was more of a Battlestar Galactica guy. But anyway, my point being is when you are removing senses, you get smarter. And look at the brilliant Helen Keller, what she was capable of doing. She created languages and was a genius communicator. So I'm letting my people know we're removing our taste, touch, and smell. Your hearing should be expanded, but it's really image streaming. You need to paint pictures and use much more descriptive vocabulary. Why? To keep their attention, because of attention span. These are things that we need to do with individuals. But for me, it's really about diplomatic vocabulary so I can reduce the offensiveness of the call.
Yeah, tell us about a few more of those.
Well, as I mentioned before, I would never say, excuse me, it's for my clarification. And then I would also use tie downs. I would never assume. I'd say, Kevin, makes sense, right? Kevin, this sounds good, right? And then if you even ask me a question, I will buffer by saying, that's a great question. I'm so glad that you brought that up. Why? There's nothing wrong with a 3-second half moon breath. So I can reset myself like boxers do. You're not hanging up on me, but my goodness gracious, let me hit a better golf shot. Stop rushing me. And I'm only asking for 1 or 2 seconds of a breath and a reset and letting you know that I know what you just said, so you don't have to repeat it again. And then we go on rabbit holes on that. I hate that.
What about I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Conflict management.
Of course. It's really adjustments of tone.
Okay, good.
The most important thing is not to necessarily agree with you. It's to understand you. And it could be time, information, money. Could be your past experiences. And so if I'm able to make any sort of forward progress by setting a second appointment, doing the contracts at time, at least it's moving forward some way. And even if it's the basics of you allowing me 5 minutes to introduce myself and get to know you, then it's a nice romantic death. At least we tried. But what you cannot do is force yourself in there or pretend like, because people that are seasoned or busy, or even someone like yourself, your audience has no idea how we met. I love your show, so I wrote you and I wanted to be a guest.
You did.
And you said, okay, I'm going to meet this guy. When we got on the phone, you're like, Richard Blank, who owns a call center in Costa Rica. What's going on? Why are you contacting me? And I said, I'm a fan and I have nothing to sell. So there's no book or seminar. I just really wanted to share ideas with you. And I appreciated that because you as a professional did have a filter, but you were also smart enough, a smart enough king to listen to everything in your castle. And you as a wise man decided that I was good enough to get on this show. And you know how that made me feel? That was a long shot. And it was also an example for your audience to see that that is how you get on someone like Kevin's show, by being assertive, acknowledging the fact that I am calling you and the fact I want something. What did I want? Just to hang out with you, buddy.
There you go. And everything you just said is a fact. So just to, what about gamification? That's intriguing.
Didn't you make your best friends during recess? Just because we're adults.
Schoolyard, neighborhood play. Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah.
And so for me in this environment, which a lot of office environments are sterile, I decided, since I had the room and I'm a Generation Xer, to buy a lot of the machines where these arcades are going out of business in Costa Rica. And
yeah,
so
tell us about this. I
was
curious how you got into collecting these vintage machines.
Well, you just check on the local sites like Facebook or Mercado Libre or things like that. And I tell you what, as much as I thought we'd be fighting for it, there's not a lot of people collecting those pinball machines. They'll collect the fighting machines. And so I'll pick something up for a couple $100 because it's not working. I'll get in touch with like Marco Specialties or another certain place in the States with the sort of things I need. For let's say $500 or $1,000, I fix these machines and they're expensive. And they're beautiful though. And so I have them downstairs so people can let off steam, recharge batteries. It's a happy medium. So they're not on their phone or smoking a cigarette or by themselves. And it gives a chance for people to approach me so we can talk and laugh and compete. And they'll never get a chance to play these old, beautiful machines. I got a 1970 Bally's Camelot and a 71 Bally's Expressway. When are they ever going to see these electrical, mechanical, gorgeous machines from the 70s? And so I do this because it's like the Willy Wonka thing. The Lumpers, they sing while they work. I got people here that like skip through the hallways because they're in a good mood.
That's great.
And it's nurturing. I've created play and I'm doing it at a certain advanced level of professionalism, because when you laugh with a co-worker, because no one ever laughs at work. But when you see someone and you're laughing through fun, man, you saw a different side of them. You saw them giggling, laughing, winning. And that's special. And I think that's how we connect a little bit different than these environments that just Pink Floyd, The Wall, these people. It's not right.
I love the references. Very colorful. So do you teach telemarketing clearly to your people, your new hires, your seasoned people, I'm sure. Is it something you do outside of the firm as well?
Of course, but my telemarketing is a little bit different from ABC closing.
Yeah.
I look at it from a complete soft skills, romantic sort of sense. They need to be pure on these calls when they're making that, because they're going to feel it. And so if they are sincere in regards by saying, Winning Business Radio, how are you today? Come on, man, at least you're going to say, who is this? Compared to, may I speak to Kevin? Do not call. Is this a sales call? Take me off your list. Not interested. Right. That's the first thing. But if someone says to me after I say the name of your company, Winning Business Radio, how are you today? Of course, they're going to say, who is this? And then you say, so glad that you asked. My name is Richard Blank. I'm going to wait. Who is Richard Blank? Gotcha. I double dipped. I used anonymity when I did the name spike, but I introduced myself. But my introduction of my name was still good enough for the follow-up question. And then I will say Costa Rica's call center and play my odds. But that's a beautiful 30-second introduction where you can jump your clouds. You can make your 1 to 400 phone calls a day doing that. At least you can anchor solid in the beginning. And if you happen to get that gatekeeper who everyone's afraid of, come on, you can tame dragons. It's just like in the movie Goonies. Don't be afraid of that person. That's the one that saves you at the end and gives you the treasures. Why would you hate a gatekeeper? These are the people that have been at the company the longest. And when I get transferred and I tell Mr. Jones how great Judy is, don't be surprised if he goes, that's my wife. She's been with me for 30 years. Thank you for saying that. No one ever says that about Judy. And that's prior to me even saying my name. He'll answer and I go, you know, Judy's the greatest. I have no idea who I am yet. But I love doing that because it takes his ego defense from a 10 to like a 1. And I take that 9 that was reduced and I put it into me for go-go juice. And that's how you get beautiful momentum in these calls. And then you don't have to worry about your script because you got the pass to pitch. The pass to pitch. No more rebuttals. It's more clarification questions. How do you like that Wu Wei? Now you're using current, wind, and gravity to move you. It's not a forced push anymore. And if you can find that sort of focused and balanced in the beginning of a phone call, you will get such amazing distance, like the long bow that changes battle. And so instead of making 400 calls a day, tell your supervisor, Billy, I'm making 125. Why? Because my metrics moved. I'm doubling the amount of talk time and look at my conversion ratios. So do not on common metrics.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm in front of a lot of people. You know what I do. I work with sales organizations. And in a big group, I'll, after they get to know me a bit, I'll say, how many of you actually like to prospect? There's usually 1, maybe 2 people. And I joke with them and I say, you're weird. It's not normal to like getting on a phone and calling strangers, but then I say, I wish more people were like that. You have a passion for this.
Listen,
this is not something
you can dance with 1,000
figure,
people in your life. Doesn't mean you're going to marry each one, but how many beautiful women have you danced one dance with? Doesn't mean you're marrying them. And if you're going to spend 2 to 5 minutes with someone in your life, make it right. And don't be surprised if even though you were looking for lobster and all I got is steak, we were so cool, that in the future, when that one time you needed steak came up, you thought of Richard Blank and you called me, hey, buddy, time for some steak. My main man, because we never pushed it. We just wanted to have that foundation. So we thought about each other and did the right thing. And so, well, then that's a shame because it's just like public speaking that people fear more than death.
Yeah, that's correct.
Scooby-Doo in the cave. I love those 2 people. Why? Because fortune favors the brave. They're the ones that will be millionaires. They're the ones that will grow companies. Yeah, I'm a CEO of a call center. Why? Because no one wants to do it. But I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it with jukeboxes and candy and 3-piece suits and pinball machines.
You do it very well and very
sprinkle
successful.
that in with it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, we are out of time. Tell us who in the viewing and listening audiences should reach out to you and why.
Yeah, anybody that wants to come visit me in Costa Rica and hang out.
Well, that's a given. That's a given.
What are you talking business?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I tell you what, if
Yeah.
somebody wants to get in touch with me and they want to run a script or just give me some ideas, as long as you're buddies with Kevin and you love the show, it's my pleasure. I'm not going to make you pay me. And if it's the sort of thing you just want to dip a toe in and see what it's like to work with a center, I'd be more than happy to consult and answer your questions. But I can't thank you enough. And I hope I was able to give certain advice to people out there that will assist them along their way.
Well, it's CEO at Costa Rica's plural callcenter.com. His name is Richard Blank. Thank you so much for your passion and for taking the time to be here.
Pleasure was mine.
And thanks everybody for listening. As you know, this is a show about business and its challenges, business successes. If you've got concerns about the sales effectiveness of your company, we didn't get to it, but marketing and telemarketing creates opportunities for sales. And you heard Richard say, sometimes sales isn't as good as it should be, even though he's doing his job. If those are your concerns, maybe you reach out to me. Whether your sales team is small, 1 or 2, or large in the hundreds or thousands, feel free to reach out to me at Kevin. It's Kevin, at winningbusinessradio.com, one of the several email addresses, as you hear me say. Our company's Winning Incorporated. We're part of Sandler Training. We develop sales teams into high achievers and sales leaders into true coaches and mentors. We're not right for everybody, but hey, maybe we should have a conversation. Thank you to producer and engineer Juan. Juan, thank you for another job well done. Be sure to join us next week. That's Monday, November 11th. When I'll be joined by 2 good friends and colleagues, Walker McKay and Matt Nettleton. We'll be talking about, ready, accountability. It's a conversation you won't want to miss. Until then, this is Kevin Hallinan.
You have been listening to Winning Business Radio with your host, Kevin Hallinan. If you missed any part of this episode, the podcast is available on Talk4 Podcasting and iHeartRadio. For more information and questions, go to winningbusinessradio.com or check us out on social media. Tune in again next week and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to listen live to Winning Business Radio on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. Until then, let's succeed where others have failed and win in business with Kevin Hallinan and Winning Business Radio.